Hello everyone, we are Group D. Today we are going to discuss Chapter 33, Aggregate Demand and Aggregate Supply. We will talk about questions for review 1 and 5, and also problem and application 2, 3, and 7. I'm Wang Xiteng, and I'm going to talk about question for review 1. Draw the short-run trade-off between inflation and unemployment. How may the Fed move economy from one point on this curve to another? Firstly, on the right-hand side, we can see figure 1, which is according to Philip Kurz. In this figure, inflation is low and unemployment is high at point A, and at point B, inflation is high and unemployment is low. This shows the short-run trade-off between inflation and unemployment. Therefore, according to 10 principles of economics discussed in Chapter 1, sin money rates when governments print too much money. An increase in money supply reduces the unemployment rate and increases the inflation rate. Also, a decrease in money supply increases the unemployment rate and decreases the inflation rate. Thus, the Fed can change the money supply to move the economy from one point on this curve to another.
Now I'm going to answer question 5 of question for review. The Fed decides to reduce inflation. Use the Phillips curves to show the short-run and long-run effects of this policy. How might the short-run cost be reduced? The economic moves done along the short-run Phillips curve when the Fed decides to reduce inflation. The figures on the right show that point A moves down to point B on short-run Phillips curve 1. People have had expect inflation on SRPC1. Besides, once the expectation of people adjust to the lower rates of inflation, it shifts to the short-run Phillips curve 2. The economic moves to point C now. About the long-run Phillips curve, classical theory states that monetary growth does not have real effects. It merely alters oil prices and nominal incomes proportionally. In particular, monetary growth does not influence those factors that determine the economic unemployment rate, such as the market power of unions, the role of efficient wages, or the process of job search. The rate of inflation would not be related to the rate of unemployment in the long run. Therefore, the long-run Phillips curve is vertical. You can see in the figure above. So, how might the short-run cost be reduced? In the short run, expected inflation is given. As a result, higher actual inflation is associated with lower unemployment. In the long run, however, people come to expect whatever inflation the Fed produces. First, actual inflation equals expected inflation, and unemployment is at its natural rate. Therefore, the inflation rate in short run due to unemployment rate is temporarily above its natural rate. The Fed's action should be transparency and credible. Then, people's expectations of inflation can catch up with reality more rapidly.
I'm Koyun Hee, and I'm going to talk about the problem and application. Question number 2. Isolate the effect of the foreign development on both the short-run and long-run Phillips curve. Give the economic reasoning. Underline your answers. A. A rise in the natural rate of unemployment. B. A decline in the rate of imported oil. C. A rise in government spending. D. A decline in expected inflation. First, let's talk about what is the Phillips curve. The Phillips curve is an economic concept defined by Ada Phillips, stating that inflation and unemployment have a stable and inverse relationship. The theory claims that with economic growth comes inflation, which in turn should lead to more jobs and less unemployment. However, the original concept has been somewhat disproven and purely due to the occurrence of stagflation in the 1970s, when there were high levels of both inflation and unemployment. A is a rise in the natural rate of unemployment. An increase in the natural rate of unemployment would shift the long-run Phillips curve to the right. Figure 1 shows by the shift from long-run Phillips curve 1 to long-run Phillips curve 2. Due to the increase in unemployment, there would be a shift in the short-run Phillips curve to the right. From short-run Phillips curve 1 to short-run Phillips curve 2, the shift in the economic situation is indicated with point A and B, which are the intersection points of long-run and short-run curve. B is a decline in the price of imported oil. A decline in the price of imported oil shifts the short-run Phillips curve down, as shown in Figure 2 from short-run Phillips curve 1 to short-run Phillips curve 2. For any given unemployment rate, the inflation rate is lower. Since oil is such a significant aspect of production costs in the economy. C is a rise in government spending represents an increase in aggregate demand, so it moves the economy along the short-run Phillips curve as shown in Figure 3. The economy moves from point A to point B with a decline in the unemployment rate and an increase in the inflation rate. D is a decline in expected inflation. A decline in expected inflation caused the short-run Phillips curve to shift down as shown in Figure 4. The lower rates of expected inflation shift the short-run Phillips curve from short-run Phillips curve 1 to short-run Phillips curve 2.
I'm John Hellman from Group D. My question is the third question from Chapter 13. Suppose that a fall in consumer spending causes a recession. I'm going to start with Part A first. Illustrate the changes in the economy using both an aggregate supply and aggregate demand diagram and a Phillips curve diagram. What happens to inflation and employment in the short run? In each diagram, the economy begins at complete employment at factor A. It had proven how discount in consumer spending reason a recession in each an aggregate supply and aggregate demand for diagram and a Phillips curve diagram. The decline in customer spending reduces aggregate supply for shifting the aggregate demand curve to the left from 81 to 82. The economy to start with remains on the short-run combination supply curve SRAS1, so the new equilibrium takes place from at point B. The movement of the mixture call for curve along the short-run aggregate supply curve leads to a movement alongside short-run Phillips curve SRPC1 from factor A to point B. The lower price level within the aggregate supply and aggregate demand for a diagram correspond to the better unemployment price inside the Phillips curve diagram. Now move on to Part B. Now suppose that over time expected inflation changes in the same direction that actual inflation changes. What happened to the position of the short-run Phillips curve? After the recession is over, does the economy face a better or worse set of inflation unemployment combination? Moving the economy to point B in the figure shows that the wave business pessimism reduces aggregate demand. The unemployment rate rises and the inflation rate declines. If the central bank undertakes expansionary monetary policy, the aggregate demand will increase, offsetting the pessimism, and the economy return to point A, with the initial inflation rate and employment rate.
I am Kwok Ching Si, and I would like to talk about the question 7. Suppose the Federal Reserve announced that it would pursue contractionary monetary policy in order to reduce the inflation rate. Would the following condition make the ensuing conception more or less severe? Expand. For the Part A, the wage contract have short duration. The wage contract have short duration mean the nominal wage can be adjusted more faster to the fall in the price level. Because the price level decreases, the employer can less reduce the number of employees, so the total output is less decreased. Finally, the recession will be less severe. For the Part B, there is little confidence in the Fed determinations to reduce the inflation. The Fed actually have 3 tools to reduce the inflation. Firstly, open the market operation. They can sell the government bonds. Secondly, changing the reserve requirement. They can increase the reserve requirement. Thirdly, changing the discount rate. They can increasing the discount rate. But when the market participants have little confidence, mean that they doesn't have much reaction for these tools. There are not enough people willing to buy the government bond. There are not enough people willing to loan out the money from the reserve requirement. And there are not enough banks willing to loan out the money from the Fed. The market will not reach the explanation of the Fed. Then, it caused the money supply less reduced, the interest rate less increased, and the aggregate demand less reduced. Therefore, the extent of deduction of aggregate demand will be decreased. Finally, the recession will be less severe. For the Part C, the explanation of inflation adjusts quickly to the actual inflation. Actually, the explanation of inflation adjusts quickly means the expected price level and actual inflation is much closer. And there is the mathematical formula showed in the PowerPoint. Because the actual price level closer with the expected price level, it means that the number from the bracket will decrease, and therefore finally, the quality of output will decrease and the reception will be more severe. Here below is our reference for your review. This is the end of our presentation. Thank you for listening attentively.